Hey guys, welcome into the first episode of The Dish presented by Sleep Number. I'm your host, Rachel Holt. Last year, the Major League Baseball season saw a 108-year-old curse be broken. Now we'll take a look at what we can expect in 2017. In this episode, we have a season preview, fantasy baseball advice, and a close look at the Boston Red Sox. Yep, opening day takes place Monday, April 3rd. Baseball is back, so get your Cracker Jacks ready. Here's everything you need to know. I'm joined now by Ricky Doyle with a look at some winners and losers of the offseason. And Ricky, let's start off on a good note. Who are some of the winners?
I like across the league. I like a lot of what some of the contenders did. I like what the Houston Astros did. They added a lot of veterans to their good young mix. Red Sox obviously added one of the best pitchers in baseball in Chris Sale. Indians only going to get stronger. The defending AL champs had Edwin Encarnacion to their lineup. So good things all around there. But I'm going to go off the reservation a little bit. I'm going to say the Chicago White Sox.
Okay.
This was a team that kind of projected to be middle of the pack, sort of, maybe even back of the pack, going into 2017. Finally decided to sell off their pieces a little bit. Chris Sale sold off Adam Eaton to the Washington Nationals. Brought in they got a plethora of prospects now. Yohan Moncada, Michael Kopech, Lucas Giolito, Ronaldo Lopez. I mean, they had just stacked from a high-end prospect standpoint. Finally building towards something. They also have some pieces to sell off towards the trade deadline. So they have a sense of direction, and I like that, even if they don't contend this season.
Okay, now for the bad news. Who are the big old losers of the offseason?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this stems from what teams didn't do, I guess. And so I look at the other teams in the AL Central. I mentioned I like what the Indians did. I like what the White Sox did. But then I look at the other three teams. The Twins, they had a chance to maybe sell off Brian Dozier coming off a big season. Didn't do that. The Royals, they stayed stagnant a little bit. They traded Wade Davis for Jorge Soler, but not really. That's kind of just a middling move, so to speak. And then I also look at the Detroit Tigers, who it's tough to make heads or tails of. I mean, this is a veteran-laden bunch, some aging players. Probably could have got younger, especially if they decided to sell off salary like they did with Cameron Maybin.
In 2016, the feel-good story of the year was the Chicago Cubs. Yep. This year, as far as storylines go, I'm looking closely at the American League. I can't wait for the Cleveland Indians and the Red Sox to battle it out. Unfortunately, they don't play each other until July 31st, so we have to wait late into the season. But hey, that's okay. We'll wait for that big old production to happen and see how that pans out. Of course. Very excited for that. As far as your storyline that you're looking out for, what are you looking at?
I do like the Cubs storyline still, because now you look at this team and it's built for sustained success. They have a lot of good young players, a lot of guys under contract for a while. So I just think that this is a team that could be good for 5-10 years. I think that's what everybody expects at this point. But there is, the elephant in the room, which is the World Series hangover. Are they going to fall victim to that? I think this team is talented enough that they can still contend and maybe make it back to the Fall Classic. But it's certainly going to be interesting to see if maybe they struggle out of the gate, or if they have that hangover that seems to do some teams in across all sports traditionally.
Certainly were fun to watch last year, so we'll see if they can do it again. Hey, Ricky, you'll be on later on in the show with some award predictions, so we'll be looking out for you. Yeah. We'll have you, please. Okay, come back. But first, we have Darren Hartwell with some fantasy advice.
Thanks, Rachel. Welcome into Fantasyland, where we'll take a little step back from reality to discuss the hot fantasy baseball topics of the week. Since the regular season hasn't started yet, let's start off by identifying the biggest move of the offseason from a fantasy standpoint. And in my mind, that has to be the Red Sox landing Chris Sale. This is one of the best pitchers in the game joining a team with a loaded offense, and that could translate into a whole lot of wins for Sale owners. On the other side of the coin, owners who drafted an AL East bat not on the Red Sox now have to worry about their guy facing a matchup nightmare several times a year. So this really shook up the fantasy landscape a little bit. Let's move on to those fantasy drafts, starting with a look at one guy going early in drafts who I think isn't getting enough credit. I'm going with Nationals phenom Trey Turner, who has an average draft position of 16 in Yahoo leagues. Turner already has 3 homers this spring, and he hit .342 in his first full season last year. He also gained shortstop eligibility in 2017 as the Nationals starting shortstop, and he already has second base and outfield eligibility. So that makes him one of the most versatile and talented assets in the fantasy game. Cubs pitcher Jake Arrieta is a guy we think is going a little too high on draft boards. Arrieta should get at least 15 wins on a team like the Cubs, but he just turned 31 years old, and his strikeout to walk ratio was nearly cut in half last season. If you're regretting drafting Arrieta a little too high, though, don't sweat it. Fantasy champions are crowned in October, not March. That's all for this trip to Fantasyland. Back over to Ricky and Mike for their MLB award predictions.
All right, well, now that we know who Darren likes in the fantasy realm, let's step between the lines and give out some hardware. Let's start in the American League. What do you say?
Yeah, with the American League MVP, I'm going to go out on a real limb here and take Mike Trout to win the American League MVP.
Pick.
Yeah, right? Yeah. He's finished 1-2 for much in his entire career. I think it's a wide open field this year. I do like Machado, but I don't think the Orioles are going to be good enough to get him serious contention. So when in doubt, I'm going to take the best player in the world. For my AL Cy Young pick, I'm going to take Chris Sale, the Red Sox. I think, it wasn't like he was overshadowed in Chicago, but I think he's going to be thrust into the center stage as a member of the Red Sox. Also, I think he's going to have to pick up some big innings for them. Strikeout numbers look like they're up as well. I think this is the year he finally breaks through and wins that. And then for my American League Rookie of the Year, I'm going to take Aaron Judge. I love the power potential there. If he limits the strikeouts just a little bit, he struck out about 40% of the time when he got called up last year. He gets it back down to about 25% like he did in the minors. I think he hits 20-25 bombs. I think that's enough, and that's a pretty enough stat to get him some votes.
All right, for my MVP pick, I'm going to go down to the Lone Star State. I'm going to take Carlos Correa of the Houston Astros. Numbers, maybe down compared to what people really expected last year, but they're also pretty damn good.
Right.
I mean, doing this at his age, I think he kind of weathered that sophomore slump a little bit, and it's only going to be good things from here. Also, a lot of opportunities to drive in runs within that lineup, which should be pretty good. For my Cy Young pick in the American League, I'm going to go with Yu Darvish. It's always been a matter of staying healthy with this guy. I mean, all the talent in the world, but this is the final year of his contract. His strikeout numbers are probably going to be there, so it is also his first season back, full season from Tommy John surgery. So I think as long as he stays healthy, he has as good a chance as anyone to post numbers worthy of Cy Young candidacy. For my Rookie of the Year, I'm also going to look towards the opportunity side of things. I'm going to take Andrew Benintendi.
Sure.
He's penciled into the Red Sox starting lineup straight out of the gate, so he's going to play a lot. Opportunity's going to be there to drive in runs, bulked up, got all the tools. So I think he emerges from the AL with the Rookie of the Year award. But let's switch over to the National League and see what we got brewing over there. Don't want to sell them short.
Yeah, for my National League MVP, I'm going to take Bryce Harper. I think he finally, he gets back on track. Had a rough 2016 after really an otherworldly 2015. So I think he gets back on the right track. I think he starts to hit. I mean, he was 9.5. He was 9.5 wins above replacement in 2015. If he even gets back to near that, I think it's going to put him in the conversation. Cy Young pick, much like my AL MVP pick, kind of an open race. So I'm going to take Clayton Kershaw.
That's all you got to say, really.
Crazy that Clayton Kershaw hasn't won it in 2 years. So he's due. And then for my NL Rookie of the Year, I'm taking Dansby Swanson. I think this is a guy he's still relatively young. Obviously, he's in the Rookie of the Year conversation. He's 23 years old, so he's got a little bit more experience than a lot of rookies do. A great player in college at Vanderbilt. He's going to play defense. He's one of the best defensive shortstop in baseball already. I think that's pretty good, and I think that gets him the NL Rookie of the Year award. All
right, NL MVP, I'm on with Chris Bryant of the Chicago Cubs. Cubs are going to be pretty good. He's going to be pretty good. All adds up, right?
Yep.
I thought Corey Seager might be a good candidate as well if the Dodgers meet their expectations. But Bryant, I think the power numbers are probably going to stand out to the voters at the end of the day, so I like him to repeat as the NL MVP. Cy Young, I'm going to play contrarian a little bit. I'll go with Noah Syndergaard. I'm not sure how good the Mets are going to be this year, but I think that he has the potential to assert himself as the clear number one in a pretty stacked rotation. This is season 3 for him at age 24, so I think really this is an opportunity for him to reach his true potential, and I think he can be dominant. Rookie of the Year, I'm gonna stick with a pitcher here. I'm gonna go to the Pittsburgh Pirates and take Tyler Glasnow. Big guy. I think as long as he gets the opportunity in that rotation, he's got swing and miss stuff. It's a chance for him. He's taken in that 2011 draft that had some pretty good company. The late Jose Fernandez, Mookie Betts, guys like that. Maybe this is his chance to show how good he is on the national stage.
I like it.
Now joined by Sam Galanis. And Sam, the Boston Red Sox are the favorites to repeat as AL East champs this year. What's the team's biggest strength as we head into the 2017 season?
Well, their biggest strength probably right now is their lineup, because even though they lost David Ortiz, they still have guys like Hanley Ramirez, Mookie Betts, Jackie Bradley Jr., Dustin Pedroia, Andrew Benintendi. I mean, I could keep naming people right now. They had 3 guys, including Ortiz, hit 30-plus home runs and 100-plus RBIs last year. So they're really the best lineup in the AL East right now.
Okay, what about their weaknesses?
Their biggest weakness has to be starting pitching depth right now. They have their big 3 of Chris Sale, Rick Porcello, and David Price, but in the long run, if one of them gets hurt, they don't have many guys behind them that can really step up and be as good as them.
Okay, which team in the AL East poses the biggest threat to the Red Sox?
It's definitely the Toronto Blue Jays. They lost Edwin Encarnacion, but they still have a a good lineup. They still have one of the best rotations in the league. So if the Red Sox falter at all, then the Blue Jays should be right behind them.
Last year, the Red Sox disappointed in the postseason. They got swept by the Cleveland Indians. This year, if the team is the team we expect them to be, how far do you see them going in the postseason?
They can definitely get past the ALDS if they are in the playoffs this season, because that rotation is a lot better, and that was really their weakness. They gave up too many runs, but at the same time, the offense didn't show up either. So now we have the younger guys with a little bit of playoff experience who hopefully can be better than that next year. At the same time, though, they might not make it all the way because the AL has a lot of competition right now, namely the Cleveland Indians again, who have only gotten better.
Okay, well, Mike and Ricky, they have some MLB picks for us. They're going to be looking at the rest of the league, so we'll send it over to them.
All right, Mike, if there's anything we like as much as baseball, it's throwing crap at the wall and see what sticks. And we got a whole bag of picks over here that we're going to get to. We'll start it off with the divisions. You want to kick it off? Let us go across the board here in the American League.
Yeah, in the American League. In the East, I like the Red Sox to repeat. I also like Cleveland in the Central, also repeating. And in the West, I like Seattle, kind of an upstart team with a good starting rotation. A lot of bop in that lineup. I'll take them to win the West. In the wild card, I like the Rangers. I don't think they're as good as they were last year, but they're still good enough to get in. And I like the Tigers. A bounce back year for Verlander last year. Fulmer looks good, so I think they've got the pitching to get it done.
All right, you're speaking my language in the AL East and the AL Central. I also like the Red Sox and the Indians. I think we know what the Red Sox can do offensively, and even without David Ortiz, they should be pretty good. Obviously, we get Chris Sale as well. Indians, obviously AL champs coming back, feeling a better team, you could argue. So I like those two. I like the Astros in the West. I think they got a good mix of veterans after adding Carlos Beltran, Josh Reddick, Brian McCann, guys like this. They're a good young core. So I like them coming out of the West. The wild card, I like your Mariners pick. Good upstart team. I think the addition of Drew Smyly might be a little underrated. And then I look at the Toronto Blue Jays. I think another team's coming out of that AL East. Blue Jays obviously have the lineup. And in the rotation, I think Marcus Stroman and Aaron Sanchez have the potential to take the next step. Let's move over to the National League and see what we got going on there. Who you like? You want to kick us off?
Yeah, in the East, I like the Nationals. I think that team is a perennial powerhouse. I think they've just got all-star talent at just about every position, and Max Scherzer topping out that rotation along with Steven Strasburg. That's a tough combination to go against. Hopefully the bullpen holds up. Chicago, the Cubs, defending world champions. That pretty much speaks for itself. Right. They're still loaded, and they're going to be good for a while. The Dodgers retained a couple of key free agents in Kenley Jansen and Justin Turner. I like them as well. As for the wild cards, I like the Cardinals to kind of sneak up on some teams this year. I think especially if Michael Walker, he's the key for that rotation. If he's healthy and gives them a lot of innings this season, they'll be fine. And the other wild card, I love the Giants. I think they could even contend for that NL West division title. One big issue they had last year was the bullpen. They kind of addressed that by going out and getting Mark Melancon, so I like them. Yeah, I'm with you. We're seeing eye to eye across the board from a divisional standpoint. I also like the Nationals, Cubs, and Dodgers. For all the reasons you mentioned, the NL West, I like Dodgers, but again, like you, I flip-flopped a little bit because I also like the Giants, and I got them as one of my wild card teams as well. It's just one of those teams that year to year you can you kind of pencil them in to be competitive, so I think they'll be there to the very end. I wouldn't be surprised if they won division. I got them as a wild card. And then I'm sticking in the NL Central for my second wild card, and I'm taking the Pirates over the Cardinals, though. I just look at the could potentially have a good young big three in Garrett Cole, Jameson Taillon, and Tyler Glasnow. And also, I really like that outfield, especially moving Starlin Marte to center field with McCutchen in the corner. Although I will say how Andrew McCutchen performs this season could go a long way towards determining who how good that Pirates team is. So let's give it World Series pick. Give it to us, cut and dry. I'm going to take the Indians. I love that team. I love that starting rotation. I love the bullpen. They got better by adding Encarnacion, and Terry Francona is one of the best managers in baseball. I like them to beat the Dodgers. They ride Kershaw to the World Series, but come up just short. Cubs make it back to the World Series, and then that's where they hit the brick wall, and they're going to lose to the Houston Astros, who have a great mix of veterans and good young players. Obviously questions that rotation, but I think they answer them. They get the job done. Cool. All right.
Everyone loves free money, right? Well, there's no better place to find it than cashing in on preseason MLB prop bets. And I have three that I love for the 2017 season. First up is Jose Altuve at 90.5 runs. This number seems pretty low considering Altuve hit 338 last year and scored 108 runs. Even if he doesn't hit in the 330s again this year, I think the Astros are going to score plenty of runs, so I'm taking the over with confidence. I also like the over on Mariners closer Edwin Diaz, who's pegged at 34.5 saves. Diaz racked up 18 saves in a 2-month span last season as a rookie, and I think he's one of the best young closers in the game. Finally, I'm taking the under on the Mets at 88.5 wins. Everyone knows the potential of this starting rotation, but with Steven Matz starting the season on the DL and Matt Harvey coming off a disastrous 2016, I just think there are too many question marks right now for me to peg them at 90 wins or 89 wins going into the season. As for World Series betting, the Cubs and the Red Sox are heavy favorites, but if you're looking for value, I like the Astros at 14-1. Carlos Correa, Jose Altuve, and Alex Bregman make up one of the strongest infields in baseball, and if Dallas Keuchel and Lance McCullers live up to expectations, this team could make a serious run at the title.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of The Dish presented by Sleep Number. We'll be back next week following the start of the MLB season, so as always, make sure you keep it on NESN.com for all your baseball news.